letting go of the life you planned for the life that is waiting for you. Sometimes the hardest thing to release is not a person, it's the life you thought you were going to have, the timeline, the dream, the version of yourself you imagined becoming by now. And when life moves in a different direction, it can feel deeply personal, like somehow you failed because things did not unfold the way you planned. But maybe life is not falling apart. Maybe it's trying to lead you somewhere you never would have gone willingly. We spend so much time trying to force what no longer fits. Sometimes we hold on to things because we invested so much into them. A relationship, a career path, a dream, an identity. We convince ourselves that if we just try harder, wait longer, or sacrifice more, eventually things will fall into place. But deep down, many of us already know when something no longer aligns. We feel it in our exhaustion, in our anxiety, in the constant effort it takes to hold everything together. Still, letting go feels terrifying because plans become attached to our identity. If this doesn't work out, who am I then? Not every ending is a failure. This is something I've had to learn over and over again. Some of the things I cried hardest over were actually redirections. Doors I begged to stay open eventually revealed why they needed to close. Situations I thought were destroying me were quietly reshaping me. Paths I fought to stay on were leading me away from myself. But when you are in the middle of loss or uncertainty, it rarely feels that way. It feels unfair, disappointing, confusing, especially when you built your future around something you genuinely believed in. But life has a way of removing what no longer fits, even when we are not ready to let it go ourselves. The life waiting for you may look different from what you imagined. And that does not make it lesser. Sometimes we become so attached to one version of happiness that we miss the beauty of what is unfolding in front of us because it arrived differently than expected. Maybe your life does not look the way you thought it would by now. Maybe your path has taken turns you never anticipated. Maybe you are rebuilding from something you thought would last forever. That does not mean your story is over. Sometimes the life waiting for you is more aligned than the one you planned, more peaceful, more authentic, more honest. Not because it is perfect, but because it fits who you are becoming now, not who you were years ago. Letting go is not giving up. There is a difference between surrender and defeat. Giving up says, nothing good will happen for me. Letting go says, I cannot keep forcing what no longer feels right. That takes courage because there is comfort in what's familiar, even when it hurts us. There is safety in staying attached to what we know. even when we have outgrown it. But growth often requires release. And sometimes the next chapter of your life cannot begin until you stop trying to resurrect the last one. You are allowed to become someone new. One of the hardest parts of change is realizing that your identity may evolve too. You are allowed to want different things. You are allowed to change direction. You are allowed to outgrow old dreams. That is not failure. That is growth. The person you were 5 years ago may not be the person you are today. And maybe that's a good thing, because some versions of ourselves are meant to carry us only so far. Stop asking why it fell apart. Start asking what it is making room for. That shift changes everything. Because sometimes what feels like destruction is actually space being created for something more aligned, a healthier relationship, a new purpose, peace, freedom, a version of yourself that no longer has to perform or pretend. You may not understand the redirection yet, but not understanding it right now does not mean it is wrong. Maybe the life waiting for you is better than the one you planned. Not easier, not perfect, but truer. Sometimes we mourn the fantasy of what could have been while overlooking the reality of what actually was. And sometimes the future we resist becomes the very thing that frees us. So if life feels different from what you imagined right now, that does not mean you missed your chance. Maybe this chapter is not the end of your story. Maybe it is finally the beginning of a more honest one. Slay reflection. S. See the truth. What are you holding on to simply because it was part of your original plan? L. Let yourself release. What would change if you stopped forcing what no longer fits? A. Accept the redirection. Has a past disappointment ever turned out to be protection or growth? Why? Yield to what's next. What might be possible if you trusted the unknown a little more? Call to action. Join the conversation. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to let go of the life you planned only to discover something unexpected waiting for you on the other side? Share your story in the comments. Let's cheer each other on. And if you know someone who's struggling to release the version of life they thought they were supposed to have, send this to them. Sometimes all we need is a reminder that a different path does not mean a lesser one. I'm Carrie Genzel, reading a blog from stateofslay.com. Slay on.